Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, in a few minutes you're going to get an assignment over adding and subtracting fractions. The three problems I'm going to work for you today are on that assignment. So that's just a hint for you to do what you think's best. I'm just saying. I am just saying.
He is just saying.
First, we have the problem 13 sevenths plus 3 halves. 13 sevenths plus 3 halves. Team Shake is begging to be asked questions. So Kinley, can I add these fractions the way they are currently written?
No.
Why not?
Because the denominators are.
The denominators are not the same. The denominators are not the same. Good. King School kids, you may go. The denominators are not the same. You're going to want to know how to do all of these steps. All of these steps. So the first thing we have to do is find the least common denominator. Go ahead. Least common denominator. Colin, what are my denominators in this problem?
7 and 2.
7 and 2. And I have to go until I find the smallest one they have in common. If I'm doing my multiples, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 7, 14, boom, 14. My least common denominator equals 14. Once I have found my least common denominator, I need to change these fractions without changing the value so that they have a denominator of 14. But I cannot, and the rock means cannot, change the value. I cannot change the value. Therefore, since this has a bigger denominator, that tells me I'm going to multiply. And I need to multiply by a fraction that equals 1. Maribel, how do I know if a fraction equals 1? Three thirds equals 1. 2 halves equals 1. 4 fourths is the same as 1. So what can you tell me about those fractions? 2 halves, 3 thirds, 4 fourths, 5 fifths. They have the same good numerator as denominator. So that's how I tell if a fraction equals 1. Thank you. Alizé, what fraction that equals 1 am I going to multiply by here and why?
2.
2 over 2. Why?
Because 7 times 2 is 14.
Good, because when I multiply fractions, I go straight across. And 7 times 2 is 14. Since 7 times 2 is 14, that means I have to use 2 over 2. And my new numerator is what, Izzy? 13 times 2 is? Or 13 plus 13. Since multiplication is repeated, it is 26. 26 fourteenths. I need to multiply by a fraction that equals 1 here. Sanaya, what fraction that equals 1 here am I going to use?
7.
7. Why 7?
7 times 2, 14.
Good. 7 times 2 is 14. So that means if I have to use 2 for my denominator, I have to do the same thing for my numerator. And Drew, what is my new numerator? 21. Make sure I pay attention to the sign because the assignment you're going to get over this has adding and subtracting problems. Adding and subtracting problems. Sahana, I know my denominator stays the same. After I add these numerators together, what do I get?
20.
Okay, no, but I'm adding 26 plus 21. 47 over 14. 47 over 14. Joshua, what kind of fraction is 47 over 14?
An improper.
Improper fraction. So does that mean it's less than, greater than, or equal to 1?
Greater than 1.
Greater than 1. And how do I change that to a mixed number?
You see how many times 47 can go into 14?
14 into 47.
Yeah.
Okay, so 47 divided by 14. Luckily, you have these notes in your journal if you follow directions. So I need to know how many times 14 goes into 47. How many times 14 goes into 47? Let's see who gets called upon for that. Natalie, how many times does 14 go into 47? Three times, good. And somebody will tell me what 14 times 3 is. So if you need to work it out, what 14 times 3 is. JJ? Team Shake, 42. Team Shake, pick JJ. Don't be raising your hand. 42. So I get a remainder of 5. Okay, my whole number, my quotient is my whole number, so that becomes 3. My remainder is my numerator, so 3 and 5, my denominator stays the same. 3 and 5/14. And then if I were to see if I could simplify that, I can tell you right now I cannot simplify that. I don't want to have to go through that right now because I want to move a little bit quickly. Quickly-ing. I don't know. So that one would be 3 and 5/14. You may not leave it as an improper fraction if you want to get credit for it being correct. I mean, if you don't mind getting it wrong, go ahead. Just leave it. Just leave it, leave it, leave it, leave it. Leave it, leave it, leave it, leave it.
What?
I was singing a Weird Al song. Hey, if y'all want to get me a good Christmas present, Weird Al's coming to the Metroplex on July 14th, I believe, or June 14th, I believe. So
I don't know who that is.
I'm a big fan of Weird Al, so if you want to, I'm just saying.
20 people giving you tickets.
But that's fine. 5/8. Subtract 1/7. 5/8. Subtract 1/7. Gus.
Sir.
Can I subtract those fractions like they are currently written?
No, sir.
Why not, Gus?
Because they don't have the same denominator.
They don't have the same denominator. I need to find the least common denominator for 8 and 7. That means I list all the multiples out. You can look at the multiplication chart. Makes it easy. Figure out the first one they have in common is what, Kane? $56. Awesome. So the least common denominator is 56. I need to change these both to a fraction without changing the value that is over 56. Oh, I got a question that's good. Morgan, is my answer, my difference, going to be less than or greater than 1? Greater than? Why?
Because I don't know.
You don't know? Okay. Okay, we'll
Because
see.
56 isn't gonna be the first one on the multiples.
Okay, we'll see what we get here. Chloe, what fraction am I going to use here? Eight times what is 56, Chloe? Say again? 7. That means I need to use 7/7. And Chloe, my numerator is? 35. And Jaren, what fraction am I going to use there? 8. Because 8 times 7 is 56. What's my new numerator? 8. So Kason, what is the answer? 27/56.
What? Oh, yeah. I got that.
Oh, that's why I said pay attention to the sign.
Yeah,
That's why I said pay attention to the sign.
Good job, Ethan. I didn't know.
And I can check to see if 27/56 can be reduced by finding the greatest common factor. 27 and 56, 1 and 27, 3 and 9, that's it. 1 and 56, 2 and
It can't be reduced.
28, 2 and 28,
But it can't be reduced.
3, 4 and 1, 14, 5 no, 6 no, and 7 and 8. So the only thing they have in common is 1.
I told you.
If the only thing they have in common is 1, that fraction is already simplified. Thank you for getting that right, Kason, because I didn't want to remind the class on purpose that it was subtraction, because I wanted to prove a point, because some of them were going to get it wrong, because they didn't do what I tell them to do all the time.
I do.
Your teachers
Sure.
phenomenally amazing. I don't even know if phenomenally is a word, but I made it up. It is now. So let's try this one. 7. Subtract 1/4. 7. Subtract 1/4.
What?
I know, right?
Oh my
That's
goodness.
amazing.
I know, right?
I know, right? Everyone's so easy.
7. Subtract 1/4. Yes, ma'am.
Can you subtract 7 and can you find the multiples of 7 and 4?
We have to have a denominator. So Mason, I have just a whole number here. What should I do with just that whole number? Can you write a whole number as a fraction, Mason? And how do you do that, Mason?
1 out of 1.
Sahana? 7 over 1 is the same as 7. I know that. I know that because if I divide 1 into 7, it's just 7. So then I have 7 over 1 minus 1/4. And Jason, can I subtract those like they're currently written? Why not, Jason?
You have to have a common denominator.
I have to have a common denominator. I have to have a common denominator. Keeps going. Yeah. Gus, what would my common denominator be?
Your common denominator would be 4.
It would be 4. Because if I take 1 and 4, 1 times 1 is 1, 1 times 2 is 2, 1 times 3 is 3, 1 times 4 is 4. So if I change these so that they're both over 4, this one already is. That one already is. Yes, it is already.
1 over.
So then I have to multiply this by a fraction that equals 1. And Izzy, what fraction am I going to multiply it by? 4 over 4. I know that because 1 times 4 is 4. So I must use the same numerator. And Izzy, 7 times 4 is? 28. 28. Alizé,
Yes.
what is the answer to this?
27/4.
Good. 27/4. 27/4. And Sanaya, what kind of fraction is 27/4? Improper fraction. And how do we fix an improper fraction, Sanaya?
Mixed numbers.
Good. We change it to a mixed number. We do that by our denominator into our numerator, or our numerator divided by our denominator. What, Gus? Well, good. Team Shake didn't call on you. Kane, how many times is 4 going to go into 27? Six. And Kane, what is 6 times 4? 24. So I have a remainder of 3. So this is being changed to a mixed number. Drew, what is my mixed number answer?
6 as a whole, and then 3/4.
And 3/4. And that cannot be simplified. Anytime the numerator and denominator are one different. So if the numerator's one less than the denominator, it can't be simplified. So 6 and 3/4 would be the answer to that problem.
Would you ever get stuck with the improper fraction after you've already done that?
Not if you divide correctly.
Okay.
If you divide correctly, there's no way. But if I put 5 in here, I would get 5 remainder 7. But that means I didn't get close enough to 27. I could have gone into 27 one more time. Boom, shakalaka, peace out. God bless. Wait.
Sonic sponsor!
Boom, shakalaka, peace out. God bless. Love you. Do something kind today. Subscribe right now so I can become rich and famous and don't have to deal with these knuckleheads anymore.